Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Influence Economy. I'm your host, Shayna Davis, and I'm so glad you're here. But before we get started, I would love if you would do me a favor. So, wherever it is that you're listening to this episode, I want you to take a screenshot. And with that screenshot, I want you to post it on your social media, tag us here at Shayna Rattler Davis, and then we just want to hear your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from this episode. And the reason why I do that is because for me, I think that there's far too many women that are seen, but they're just not paid well. And everybody doesn't know where to start to change that. So the more times that these episodes are shared, the more people that can be exposed to the shifts that are going to be required in order for them to own their influence. So I thank you in advance for being willing to share that. I'm going to read my guest's bio and we're going to get started. So, my guest today is co founder of Strata Originals. Co leads a personal branding agency specializing in working with CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, and legal professionals. With a strategic, intentional, and authentic approach, he has coached or trained over 600 CEOs in just the past 2 years. His passion for personal branding comes from over 2 decades of experience in leadership roles, including public companies, partnerships, and entrepreneurial ventures. As co founder of InfinityCom, a full service marketing agency, he developed deep experience in public relations and marketing, honing his ability to craft and elevate brands, including CEOs' personal brands. I'm excited to welcome to the show Alan McLaren.
Thanks, Ryan. It was really great to be here this morning.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're here. I want to talk about several things today as it pertains to branding and thought leadership. And I want to make sure that we answer these questions from the perspective that the bulk of my audience is entrepreneurs, but I also have some corporate leaders that listen to this show as well. And interestingly enough, about 4 months ago, my mentor was like, corporations now want their executives to have personal brands. And I was like, but why would they want that? Because isn't that going to just like make them leave the company and start their own business? So I'm really excited to have this conversation from the perspective of both the entrepreneur and the corporate leader. But where I would like to start, Alan, is that in my opinion, I believe that there is a difference between noise and value. And
Mhm.
I believe that having a strong POV or point of view, if you all don't know what that means, in your thought leadership is really what helps you to make sure that you're not just in the marketplace making noise. And so I would love to hear from you is like, what do you think separates a true thought leader from someone that's just operating online or posting randomly on social media?
It's the most simple answer you'll ever get from me. Are you delivering value to the people that matter? That's it. Because the noise, as you describe, is I'm active. Well, active doesn't do anything for anyone
Yeah.
unless we're delivering value. So the quote that we use internally is find your uniqueness and share it in the service of others. So if you think about it in that way, you all have a gift. Everybody, whether you're a CEO, you're in a corporation, you have something, you call it a point of view, and that's part of it for sure. But you have a gift. You've developed this experience that only you have. You are unique. And people, that's why we call it Strata Originals. You are unique. There's only one you. Dr. Seuss was right. But you haven't discovered what's unique about you and what you can share. So that would be my answer to you. It's the value question.
And I love that. I've had a lot of people ask me over the years, but there's only so many different unique ways that I can approach what it is that I offer, or I'm struggling to try to figure out like how I differentiate myself in the marketplace from other people that do what I do. And I think that there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking a strong stance in what it is that you believe. Like your guiding belief statement can be something that is bold. For example, when I think about what it is that I offer for individuals who are podcast hosts, my guiding belief statement is that I believe that a podcast without a business model is a hobby. I
Mm.
have a strong point of view of people who post or who host shows. And
Yeah.
so, can you speak a little bit about like how are we original when we're trying to stand out in what can sometimes be a crowded marketplace?
Well, the thing is, you're doing it, and by your presence alone, you're there because most people aren't. China. Here's the thing that people think, well, I have competition. No, you don't. Your personal brand is you. That's it. End of story. So, but your point of view is important because you need to draw people into your world. That's the part that matters. But, oh, well, so and so is the CEO. We do the same things. You don't do the same things. Nobody's the same.
Yeah.
Nobody's the same. But if you're not communicating it, then you are the same because you're letting them determine your narrative. And so if you're out there, then there's no surprise on who you are. That's
And
how.
how does that show up for somebody that works inside of a company? Because I can think, of a lot of examples of why that's important if you are an entrepreneur and you're looking to market your services. But how does that show up for someone that is leading inside of an organization, but they still want their thought leadership to shine through so that they get recognized and actually valued instead of just visible?
So depending on the role in the corporation, because when you're, an entrepreneur, you are the company, right? So that face is really clear, and any people you have behind you are supporting you. In a corporation, you have a role. So you might be in software engineering, you might be leading sales, you might be leading marketing. You have a perspective on your expertise. Your tribe is also out there, right? So let's assume, for argument's sake, because we're doing a podcast today, it's marketing. You're a chief marketing officer of Exxon, right? And you're saying, well, why would that matter? Well, you're not marketing oil when you're marketing Exxon, you're marketing trust. So
Yes.
you have expertise that you want to share with people that is so much bigger than your role at Exxon, but it ascribes trust to you and it ascribes trust to the business because you're helping people. Now, Exxon's so big that you're not going to be able to see the difference you're making, but you are making a difference. And so inside a corporation, you have tribes. You got to find out who they are and share. Again, you can't go outside the company mantra, if you will, but you don't have to be a shill for the company because that doesn't work either. Sharing company content is not personal branding because you've
Yes.
got no perspective on it. And
Yes.
your audience, your LinkedIn audience, doesn't care about the latest press release, but they do care about your perspective on something that might be happening in the oil and gas business, maybe what's happening politically, because that's relevant to the oil and gas industry, what's happening globally. That's perspective. And that's there. And that's how you build out your personal brand that helps the company and you.
And I love that you mentioned trust, Alan. And I think that this is relevant for entrepreneurs and individuals that are leading inside of companies because people trust people, they don't trust companies. And the more your thought leadership, the more your opinions and your values stand out, the more people are going to trust the organization and trust doing business with the organization, whether it's your organization or the organization that you work for. And obviously, the more trust there is, the more likely you are to keep talent. The more trust you are, the more likely you are to sell goods and services, which means the more likely you are to continue to get raises and to continue to be in business.
Absolutely. And if you think about it this way, if you think about the corporation, a lot of leaders hide behind the logo, right? So if they hide behind the logo and they're not the face of the business, then it's real easy to ascribe the narrative to the business because you don't really know what they're about other than what's on their website, which we all know is platitudes and marketing speak, and that doesn't matter. But if you have someone who's the face, like you can't misinterpret what I'm talking about. I can't misinterpret what you're talking about because it's video, it's live, it's real. Well, when you write a press release or you write a social post, that can all be interpreted. And here's the fun part. If you're the leader and you're out there, you're helping your marketing get better, you're helping your sales get better, you're helping your communication get better because they're ascribing that trust word to you, ergo to the business. And that means when someone picks up the phone and say, "Have you heard of this company?" "Yeah, I just saw your CEO. He or she's really great." What does that do?
Yeah.
Opens up doors that, but I got to tell you, it's so disappointing because most corporate people just don't get it and they hide behind the company or they say, well, here's the approved social posts. I don't know what year we're in, but it's not, 2025 until we can get past this because we've got to be, there's my point of view.
I I love it. And I also believe that this really shows up when you are speaking on behalf of your company as well. Again, whether it's the company you own or the company that employs you. I so often see individuals that it's not translating well in the way that they're communicating, whether they are in an interview, whether they've been selected to speak on behalf of the company in any medium. Things are getting lost, and I'm not saying just because they're poor communicators. I don't think that oftentimes that they would be selected if they just didn't know how to speak, if they didn't know how to articulate. But no thought leadership is coming through. Everything is just so vanilla that I almost don't care what your company does because I can't get past the fact that I'm waiting to hear something that is going to mean something.
Well, just think about this when and I don't want to get into politics, but when we get into, we watch political leaders, it's the same talking points
Yeah.
all the time.
All the time.
Nothing is real anymore. We're going to do this and we're going to make it better. And it's the same thing that corporations do because they're trying to control the narrative. When, if they unleash the power of the authenticity inside each of their constituents, their employees, their whatever it is, they'll blow the world up in such a positive way because it's humans talking to humans. When we forget that there's humans in the way here, we know what a talking point is. We know you're trying to get to those three things. When we work with our clients, and by the way, it's all video. We do not do any social posts. We work with clients on video. We get them out of their head and say, no, 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 I'm going to ask you a question, just like we're having a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, and you're going to answer it like I was a customer. How would you
Yes.
do it? Well, I would say that. Then that's all we want. I don't want, well, the top three ways to do that. No, no one cares. Be human, be authentic, be real. That's what we're looking for.
I think that is the best advice. If you all are listening to this episode and you don't take anything else away, be human.
Yeah.
Whether it's in your written communication, whether it's in your oral communication, stop being a robot. I was having this conversation with my husband last night, and I actually had it with a guest yesterday as well. And we talked about talking in sound bites. And I
Mhm.
said, the sound bite can't be so short that you said nothing. And we're like, okay, you said that to say what? But at the same time, you can't be so long winded that I don't even remember what it is that you're talking about. But I think the reason why it comes through like that, especially on the short end, is because we are just trying to hit these one or two trigger words or delivered in the way that the corporate communication people said that we had to do it, and people are like, who is this person? Like, what are you even talking about? And so, like he said, I'm not saying that you have to like go rogue and be completely counter to what it is that the company wants you to say, but learn how to deliver it in a way that is human, and learn how to deliver it in a way that you can interject your thought leadership into the corporate messaging so that people recognize that there are real people there. And again, it goes back to trust.
And it's really about the word perspective, isn't it?
That's good.
You have perspective based on your experience, right? So if you take two people that are apparently in the same business and one happens to serve an immigrant market and one happens to serve a local market, their perspectives are different because of who they serve. Their perspectives are different from where they came from, even if it's the same business,
Yes.
right? So in corporations, that happens as well. A software engineer, they don't all come up the same way. If you're a female software engineer, you did not come up the same way. First of all, you're a unicorn. Thank God we need more. But you didn't come up through the same things. You didn't have the same challenges, and you still don't have the same challenges. Ergo, your perspectives are different. That's
Yes.
the power. That's the power.
Absolutely. Alan, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about this perspective piece. And I also want to share some of the things with the audience that can actually get in the way. So we'll be right back. Ready to turn your influence into income? Take the Influence Growth Assessment. In just minutes, you'll uncover the next steps to grow your visibility, attract bigger opportunities, and boost your profitability. Visit myinfluencestyle.com to take the assessment today. A new era of success is waiting. Let's make it yours. All right, welcome back. Well, we're talking to Alan McLaren about thought leadership and how your branding kind of weaves its way in and out of your thought leadership. So, I want to talk a little bit more about this perspective piece that you brought up before the break. So, when it comes to having a personal perspective, when it comes to having a strong perspective. And strong doesn't have to mean negative. It doesn't have to mean like overt or like, I feel like nowadays everybody's told, oh, just be authentic. And some people have taken that as a license to just be like raggedy. I can't think of a better word than that. But what responsibilities come with having a strong perspective?
Well, I think you come back to, is it serving you? Is it serving your personal brand? Is it serving the company that you work for? Because you want to serve the company you work for because it's good for you, right?
Yeah.
You suggested earlier, you get better raises and better benefits. If the company does well, it pays more taxes. It does all those positive things. So you have a role in that in terms of understanding what the company wants to do and what your perspective is or your point of view on it. So if there's a press release that is being shared, if you add, and here's what my thoughts on that, it can't be counter to the company, obviously, but it can support the company and can show, wow, what an interesting way to look at that. Because the press release is not going to give you perspective, it's going to give you facts.
Yeah.
You can have perspectives on it to say, this is how it helps you. This is why it's important. Oh my goodness, that's so different. So that's how they tie together in a positive way.
Yeah. And I believe that you also have a responsibility to your consumers, whoever those may be, because it's a great way to help them decide who it is that they want to do business with. I call it the magic that happens around the edges.
Yes.
I'm not in my office where my books are, but I wrote a book one time and it was called Yes Magnet. And it was talking about like what are all the things that can help you get a yes. And so I gave the example of you can go into Macy's or you can go into Dillard's and they have the exact same pair of shoes. But what could one of those stores do that would make you want to shop there if you could get the exact same thing at the other one? I think it's the magic that happens around the edges and sprinkling in your perspective and sprinkling in those human components can sometimes be the difference in why someone wants to come work at your organization. It can sometimes be the difference in why a consumer wants to purchase from you instead of the people that say they do, something very similar to what it is that you're doing. Because most times, sophisticated consumers are making a comparative decision about where they want to work or where they want to buy from. They're not just going with the first place that pops up as a sponsored ad on Google.
And think about this, right? So people buy with emotion, they justify with logic, right?
Yeah,
So
that's good.
if you think about the magnet, so what's drawing people to the same product and buying it from something, it comes back to, I trust that this going to fulfill something inside me. A pair of shoes fulfills something inside somebody, right? Why that color attracts you, why the heel attracts you, why the brand attracts you. I mean, the branding is all about emotion, isn't it? Right? So now in our world, when we think about thought leadership or personal brands, you are that brand now. Am I trusted? Do I like how he or she communicates? Do I trust how he or she communicates? That's going to be the magnet that, because personal branding is an attraction strategy, right? That's you're pulling people into your world by helping them. And that's the goal that you should have, but it's never about selling. And that's the part that people forget. It's not, and buy my stuff. It's no, let me help you, invite you into my world. Yeah, eventually I'm going to sell you. Once you put up your hand and say, really interested in this stuff, great. Now we're in the sales category. That's okay.
Yes.
We're allowed to do that. And you can opt out at any point. But at the beginning, to pull you into my world, I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
That's sincere help.
In reading your bio, I shared that you have worked with over 600 CEOs. So you've done a lot as a leader. What is, when you think about your own thought leadership, what is one belief or one mindset shift that really changed the way that you lead and influence others?
Well, the one thing I start to use the word responsibility earlier.
Mhm.
I think if you're a leader, here's my point of view, and you're not out there, I'm going to be very bold. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you. Shame on you because you don't recognize the opportunity you have to help others,
Yeah.
right? At scale. So forget about your business for a second. So if I forget about what I do at Strata for a moment, I know I'm helping people because I get emails all the time saying that worksheet was really great or that video helped me think about something differently. That is such a cool thing to know people you've never met before or people from 30 years ago come out of the woodwork and go, oh, I remember you. Yeah, you were like, isn't there's this thing called karma in the world? So when you put out good, stuff will come back to you. So to me, I think it's a leader's responsibility because of what they've learned to be able to share it with the next generation and others. That's my point of view. The benefit of that, well, when you give, you get back 100-fold.
Yeah.
And so it's a selfless act, but oh my God, when you do it and you do it right and you have to learn how to do it, the benefits are unbelievable. They really are.
Yeah, if I had to give one, I would say 75% of my audience is female. And I think that the mindset shift or the belief transference that has to happen for many women is that you need to give yourself permission to take up space.
Got
So
it.
often we've been taught to shrink to fit. So often we've been taught, you know, all kinds of crap that's just like, just a bunch of mind junk. But I think you need to give yourself permission to take up space. And you hit on that. You were like, if you're not out there, if you're not putting yourself out there, shame on you. It's a disservice to the uniqueness that of the way that you're made. And it's a disservice to the people that are actually just waiting and sometimes praying for the level of gifting that you have.
We work with a lot of female executives, and we found that fear is the biggest thing, is because the perception of what I will look like when I'm out there. So, we have to break that down, and then what's incredible is the transformation that happens from, oh my God, you want me to do video, to unstoppable on the other end,
Yeah.
because the talent is there, but and we've had airline pilots, power lifters, people with they would appear to be fearless on the outside. We're all human and we all have these things that make us stuck. So we help them get through that. And then on the other side, like I get goosebumps thinking about it because they get the confidence and then they can go on their own. And now they spread the word to others. So when you transform one person, they're transforming others. We can't see that, but it happens in your podcast and hopefully in this interaction with 75% of your audience. Get out there. You can't believe what will happen to you when you do that. So that
Absolutely.
I'm encouraging you to take the leap to get out there because once you do that, you will transform as a human and you will help others. And that's the magic, to use your word.
Absolutely. That's the magic that happens around the edges. Well, Alan, I know people are going to want to learn more from you because we're only scraping the surface in all the things that you can do to help. So, if people want to follow you on social media, what handle do you recommend they follow you on?
So my full name, Alan McLaren, on LinkedIn is the best place to go. And you just mentioned that you were on the podcast because I have a lot of people trying to sell me stuff. So say I was on the podcast. I'd love to connect with you. You'll be automatically happy to do that. And if you have any questions, then ask them. I'm happy to help. Sometimes I do a video response. Someone asks a question, I'll do a video response. So it's more detailed. But that's the best way to do that. So yeah,
Okay, perfect. And do you have anything in particular that you would like to offer the audience if they want to take things further with you?
I would. If they go to my LinkedIn, you'll see download a free worksheet. And the worksheet is a 4 or 5 pager to get you to think about your personal brand today, who you are, what your credibility is, what your perspectives are. That's the first step to kind of is understanding you. Once you understand you, then of course you can start to communicate that. So that I think is a tool that would be really helpful for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I know that this episode is going to be a hit. You dropped a lot of nuggets that I believe is going to help a lot of people if they apply it. So thank you again for being here. Everyone, share this episode with every woman that you know that is leading and influencing other people. And I hope that you will go back and listen to previous and future episodes as well. Everyone, have a great day. Bye bye.